Hey everybody, welcome back to another HD broadcast, and this is going to be the semi-finals of the G-Star All-Star Tournament. Yes, there's been a lot of delays. I said I wanted to cast this entire series in a reasonable time span, but unfortunately I had the ant infestation. They were just popping up all over my room, and then I had the fungal growth coming out of my mouth when I was really sick. So I have been delayed quite a bit, but I promised I was going to cast the entire tournament, and I am feeling perfectly well again. I'm 100%, and I am ready to cast this game right here. This is once again the semi-finals of the G-Star All-Star Tournament, and it is going to be KyrixZenith spawning as the yellow Zerg here. KyrixZenith, also the player who I believe defeated Slayer's Boxer. I'm not 100% sure on that. I think so. And his opponent is going to be oGs.TheWind, who, whoa, he's going to be throwing up an early spawning pool here right on 10 supply. So he is going to try to open up this game with some early Zerg versus Zerg aggression. And yes, I know it's a Zerg versus Zerg, and probably half you guys out there are like, oh god, but Zerg versus Zerg is actually a pretty interesting mirror matchup, at least in my opinion. I know I play Zerg, so it is a little biased, but I really do think that Zerg versus Zerg features a lot of, you gotta play at a high level pace, and you always have to keep up. You got to know what your opponent is doing, and it's so much a game of rock paper scissors, because you can open up with a certain build such as this 10 pool, and if your opponent opens up with, well, it looks like KyrixZenith will be opening up with a 14 gas 14 pool, then you're actually in a lot of trouble, because 14 gas 14 pool is like the rock, and 10 pooling is kind of like the scissor. And so I don't think oGs.TheWind is going to be able to do much damage here. Here comes his Zerglings. And these early Zerglings are designed to pressure and break your opponent if he goes for a 14 hatchery. But if he goes for 14 gas, 14 pool, I think that KyrixZenith should be able to hold this off decently well. The Zerglings are going to arrive in his base right as soon as his Zerglings start to morph. So we'll see what happens here. Here comes 4 Zerglings plus 2, that's 6, plus 2 more, that's 8. And so I guess these Zerglings are going to take the long route around just to do a little scouting. And here comes the Zerglings. Now KyrixZenith knows what's up. He's got to pull drones off the line. And how many drones does he have? He has 16 right now. And now it's down to 15. How many more is he going to lose? Oh, wow. Good surround right there from KyrixZenith, and I think this thing is always really slow to update, guys. I think that he only lost 1 drone in that entire attack, so wow, he is way ahead right now, as he's got about 2 more drones, and I think he's gonna go for a counterattack here. As you guys can see on that production tab, 4 more Zerglings on the way. Here comes his counterattack. KyrixZenith looking good, and oGs.TheWind forced to throw up a spine crawler because he knows that he is gonna lose if he does not have a crawler up, and if he doesn't have a blockade at his ramp with these 2 queens. So good defense here from oGs.TheWind. A lot of times players will go for an early attack and it fails, and then they just lose to the counterattack, but oGs.TheWind not gonna fall for that. He actually gets up his defenses, he gets up his queen and his spine crawler, and he should be fine against any Zergling attacks. Now, if we look at the income tab, I would expect to see, well, actually the Wind is now ahead at 19/16, and that's because KyrixZenith actually produced a lot of Zerglings. Now, actually Speedling's gonna try to run up the ramp, but that is going to be deflected. Oh god, oGs.TheWind here is doing a lot of damage, and KyrixZenith just lost about, I think that's 1, 2, 3, 4 pools of Zergling blood. And oh, now he can actually get a run by in. He is going to get some of his Zerglings in, and he's going to get around the spine crawler, going to get a perfect scout here. But if we look on the production tab, we can see that KyrixZenith already has his lair almost finished. So this is a super fast lair, and at the meantime, it looks like oGs.TheWind also going to get his lair up. Now, the thing is, KyrixZenith did scout the lair, so he knows that there's a lair coming. It is a bit more delayed. He also sees the Banelings now, so there is 2 Banelings here purely for defensive purposes. And KyrixZenith, oh god, oh goodness, the Zerglings just ran straight into the Banelings. Usually we see Banelings running into Zerglings, but not Zerglings running into Banelings. Those Zerglings had a death sentence. They just wanted to commit suicide. Somebody called the 1-800 hotline for them. They only 1 guy survived out of that one, so that was not a pretty sight. And KyrixZenith there gotta be banging his forehead against the wall after such a blunder like that. Now he's going to be getting his own Baneling's Nest. He is getting a quick Spire. So it is a one base Muta strategy from KyrixZenith. This is ultra hyper aggressive. The Mutas are going to be coming very, very soon. And oGs.TheWind has just barely started his own Spire. So he is definitely behind at this point in the game. But I think in terms of harvesters, he may just be slightly ahead. So he's got a little bit more income, but really, he's gonna have to get something to deal with the Mutas, and I don't think he's even scouted the Spire. No, he has not, with 2 Mutalisks on the way. Now, the nice thing is, oGs.TheWind does have 2 Queens, and 2 Queens can hold off a lot of Mutalisks. They can hold off, I think, about 5 or 6 with Transfuse, and they do have quite a bit of energy saved up. So I think the Wind should be fine for some time, but eventually he's going to have to get some of his own Mutas, or possibly something to deal with the Mutalisks coming from KyrixZenith. Here comes the expansion! Oh my goodness! A bunch of Lings dying. KyrixZenith, right there, you need to be careful. As you guys can see, he tried to pull one Zergling out of his party so that he could kill off the Baneling, but he didn't control his Speedlings that well, and it's actually really tough to control Zerglings, especially when they have speed. It's probably the most difficult unit to micro. So, really can't blame him there. KyrixZenith now does have a decent flock of Mutas. Do note, both players getting their expos up, and once they get their expansions up, that's really when the game may transition into a standard macro game in Zerg versus Zerg, which is actually quite common nowadays. As I've played a lot of Zerg on ladder, a lot of ZVZs end up going to the mid game, and then they end up getting prolonged all the way down to the late game. So we'll see if KyrixZenith can hold that right here, if he can end the game right here, right now. Oh, good transfuse from oGs.TheWind to keep, oh, another transfuse. That one was actually a little wasted. 2 transfuses for only the price of 150 health, so not the best. But KyrixZenith, the nice thing is he has complete map control, he has more Mutalisks, he's actually got more drones now, and of course with those more Mutalisks he has map control. oGs.TheWind in a lot of trouble. The one thing he's got going for him is he does have the proper defense to deal with these Mutalisks and these Lings, and so I think, oh god, that Mutalisk just barely got away from there, and with reinforcing Mutas here, oGs.TheWind could counter, and he could kill off a lot of these Mutalisks. He's gonna chase, he's gonna give chase, but it looks like he will decide to fall back. Now, oGs.TheWind has to be careful because he is falling behind in economy at 30 harvesters under 37. Sip of water there, guys, but I do think right now that KyrixZenith is looking to be in a good position to move on to the finals of the G-Star All-Star Tournament. It's looking like he's got the Roaches now, which are the hardcore backbone of the Zerg army and its composition. Any player who gets a lot of Roaches is almost impossible to defeat, and Mutalisk and Lings are not effective versus Roaches. The Roaches just have too much armor, they have too much HP. So I think KyrixZenith here is looking to be in a very good position to advance forward to the grand finals, and should oGs.TheWind lose, he will get knocked down towards the, what is it, the third place battle. Although I actually forgot to mention, this is a best of 3 series, so even if a player loses this game, it's only 1 down in terms of momentum. They do have another game to get back into it, and of course a total of 3 games. So we'll see what happens, but oGs.TheWind not looking too good. Let's go ahead and switch over to the player camera view of KyrixZenith. He is now at 251 APM, has just destroyed those backdoor rocks, and has decent saturation, not the best at his natural, but we can see that he's looking very good. He's actually got, whoa, a Corruptor in his army comp as well. I'm very curious why he decided to go for a Corruptor. We're going to go ahead and switch over to oGs.TheWind's player cam view now. And, you know, I think mixing in 1 Corruptor or 2 Corruptors can be kind of helpful because they can help against a mass Mutalisk ball. Oh, it looks like KyrixZenith here going to do some pretty good damage as he gives chase to oGs.TheWind's Mutas. He's actually got more Mutalisks, but the Queen's coming in to back him up. And with those Queens, you just cannot engage. The Queens do too much AA damage, and they have Transfuse to keep the Mutalisks alive. But I wanted to mention that this Corruptor right here can actually make a pretty big difference because it's so much more sturdier than Mutas, and it can add that contamination ability, or is it I think it's a corruption ability. The contamination belongs to the Overlords, or the Overseers, excuse me. So it's a very nice ability. Now, what do we have here? We actually have an Infestation Pit, and oh wow, a lot of Infestors coming out, as well as Hydras, and wow, Infestors, Hydras are very, very good against Mutalisks because the Fungal Growth can lock them down. The Hydras can do massive DPS. It looks like a couple of Roaches gonna get caught out of position following the transfuse from oGs.TheWind, keeps his units alive. And oh wow, right now we can see that KyrixZenith may be the one who's in trouble here, as Hydralisks and Infestors are an extremely potent combination, and to deal with that you will need a lot of Roaches and Infestors of your own. But we can see right now, really, KyrixZenith has no Infestation Pit on the way. He's just got Mass Roach, Mass Mutalisks. Is it going to be enough to deal with the Hydra Infestor from oGs.TheWind? If we look on the army tab, we can see that KyrixZenith still holds the advantage, however, at 132 over 108. So he definitely has an upper hand if the battle happens. But you gotta remember that Infestor, that Fungal Growth, can be the key component in victory for Zerg versus Zerg. If you can whittle down the enemy forces and then fall back, whittle down, fall back, take those pot shots, then you can be in a very favorable position. That is what I'm talking about. Beautiful Fungal Growth from oGs.TheWind. Those Roaches are extremely weakened. The Hydras are pounding those Mutalisks down, and now the Roaches at half health gonna engage these Hydras. Is it going to be enough? Lots of transfuse coming off from oGs.TheWind. You're trying to keep his Hydralisks and his Queens alive. I think that the superior economy of KyrixZenith will kick in here as more Roaches come down from the north, and they are going to be able to push back these Hydras. Beautiful play from KyrixZenith, and of course even better play from, well, I wouldn't say better play, I would say beautiful play from oGs.TheWind as well, but unfortunately he just didn't have the economy to keep up. That was an extremely close battle at the center of the map. But I think now that oGs.TheWind is in a lot of trouble. He doesn't have his Queens anymore to transfuse. That of course means he can't even spawn larva if he pulled the Queens off the hatchery. And indeed, did he? No, he did not. He's actually got a lot of Roaches coming out here. Maybe he's going to be able to hold off with this Roach Hydra army. Here comes the counterattack. oGs.TheWind still behind in economy. He saves his gold hatchery at the last possible second, but he is extremely behind right now. He's facing up a massive Roach ball. And to deal with this, he is going to need something. He's going to need a miracle. He's actually got no upgrades at all. Neither does, actually, KyrixZenith has +1 weapons. So that's another advantage that is tilting the table in favor of the yellow Zerg player. He's just got everything going for him right now. He can actually snipe off this hatchery. He's just going to push forward though and kill off this army first. Every single unit of oGs.TheWind is falling as his Queen and more Roaches pop out. Will he be able to hold on to this? He has to hold on to this gold hatchery. I think he just barely does. But as time goes on, he's forced to produce more and more attacking units to deal with these attacking units, and the more he's forced to do that with his larva, he cannot catch up in economy, and so that economic advantage continues to downpour in favor of KyrixZenith here. A lot of Roaches just sniping off that gold hatchery, and maybe with the help of the Broodlings he can somewhat hold this off, but I guess the Broodlings decided there they don't even want a piece of this. And I think this will be good game. KyrixZenith here will, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I was going to say advance forward, but he will win game number 1, which means we will go down to game number 2 in this best of 3 series. And I want to thank you guys for being patient this entire time. And, you know I took a while to release all the games of this tournament, but like I said, I've been really sick, guys, and so I really do appreciate your guys' patience and tuning in, and I will have more of the games coming out in a very, very quick fashion. So thanks so much for subscribing and staying tuned. I really appreciate all the support you guys have given me. I think this is going to be GG. Am I calling this too early here? There we go. oGs.TheWind calls the Korean GG. KyrixZenith wins game number 1, and we're going to go ahead and move on to game number 2. HD signing out.